Start with the situation here in the UK with Boris Johnson, because the Privileges Committee, Boris Johnson's partygate claims, is expected to conclude their inquiry today. The MPs are probing whether former UK Prime Minister misled the Parliament about the lockdown parties. Johnson has already been given an advance copy of the report, after which he resigned as an MP. Well, after today's finalisation, the report is expected to be published in a week. According to media reports, the committee was preparing to recommend the suspension of Johnson as an MP for days. However, even if the committee recommends Johnson's suspension, it would have gone for an approval in the House of Commons. But by resigning, the former Prime Minister has avoided this suspension. Although analysts, though, are still predicting criticism for the former PM in the report, for almost a year, the 7-person committee have been probing the post-partygate claims and the counterclaims. Most members on this committee are from the Conservative Party. Some of his supporters still believe Johnson is a victim, though, of political witch hunt. Now, the witch hunt claims was dismissed, though, by the UK Energy Secretary Grant Shapps over the weekend, where he said people just want to move on from the drama of Boris Johnson. Alex Isaac is joining us now from London to tell us more. So this has been quite the drama, hasn't it? And it's not just Boris Johnson. Some of his closest allies have decided to jump this ship, a bit of a sinking ship. What do you make of it all, Alex? Tell us more.
Well, you're right there that a few did decide to leave. And Nadine Dorries, who we expected to get a peerage, she actually didn't get that peerage. And that was not because of Rishi Sunak pushing the through. It was because of a separate committee when it comes to peerage announcements, and also Nick Adams as well. So we know of at least 2 MPs that have also resigned. But we also understand that it all may well be down to this committee paper that's going to be coming out later today about whether Boris Johnson and COVID, the partygate situation, was illegal, and whether or not sanctions were going to be put on him, and whether he just threw his toys out of the pram, decided to just quit. Of course, Rishi Sunak is speaking at the moment at London Tech Week, and he is likely to answer some questions. So we may hear from him today with regards to what he says about Boris Johnson and the other MPs that have decided to resign as well. But it does seem that there is still a lot within the Conservative parties who also may take a back seat, may resign. And there are these rumours that there could well be another party starting up, and the Conservatives have had their day. But that's really unlikely that Boris Johnson is going to be leading another party. But he might well come back into politics at a later date. He says, of course, that it's a witch hunt, and it's all down to the fact that he didn't try and mislead anybody. But then a lot of the Conservative members, not just Shapps, but also Michael Gove, said as well today that it wasn't, in fact, it was just the inquiry following through how it was meant to, and that we will find out exactly what was going to be said to him. Of course, he saw it ahead of us, or saw potentially the sanctions that were going to be placed on him, and he didn't want that. But it does feel like we are seeing a Conservative party that is falling apart at the seams. There is still this backbiting, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of calm yet in this storm. We'll see what Rishi Sunak has to say later, but it would be quite interesting to see how Boris Johnson goes from this, and whether or not he comes back into politics, as many people assume that he will. And if not, he's likely to write a book and then potentially go on the speaking circuit to get the money that many people says that he can get.
Oh, yes, he's been earning a lot of money, hasn't he? Thank you so much for your analysis there. That's Alex Isaac joining us from London. Now we've got Alexander Claxon, political analyst and founder of Global Political Insight think tank, joining us now for your analysis. So what do you think? Is this a witch hunt, or is it comeuppance?
Hi there. Yeah, thank you for having me. Well, in my view, this is not a witch hunt. Of course, as you mentioned at the beginning of your program, most of the members taking part in this committee are Conservative Party members. It's important to note here that within the Parliament itself, Boris Johnson's popularity has gone down significantly. He does not hold a lot of respect or support among the members of Parliament itself. However, he does have a lot of popularity among the Conservative Party members. That does give him some leverage, and that's the reason why people may think that he may come back at some point, especially when you consider that the Conservative Party is not doing very well in the polls at the moment. They're behind Labour Party by about 15 points, if I'm not mistaken, which does suggest that the Labour Party might win if the general election were to take place next year, as is planned at the moment, and they may also struggle in the upcoming by-elections within the three places which are going to take place soon. That does mean essentially that Boris Johnson is holding on to the possibility that he may come back at some point. However, as I just mentioned, I don't think this is a witch hunt. I think this is essentially just Boris Johnson, messing up, lying to Parliament, and now he's just trying to come out of this unscathed in order to have an opportunity to make a political comeback at some point.
Okay, a political comeback at some point. You don't think that he could potentially move to another party, the Reform Party, for example?
Well, Boris Johnson has always been very ambitious as a person. Of course, he has been an MP, but obviously that didn't really go to plan from his point of view. I think creating a new party wouldn't really give him a chance to become a prime minister, in a foreseeable future. I think what we've seen is that obviously Britain is very much a party of two, right? The Labour and the Conservative Party, and if he were to create a new one, that would of course damage Conservative Party substantially. That would probably mean that the Conservatives would struggle to win for the foreseeable future. But I also don't think that would mean that Boris Johnson himself will be elected as prime minister anytime soon. And I think that's his big goal, is to try again at being prime minister. He wants to put right what went wrong the first time he was the prime minister. He wants to show to the world that he is, that great leader that he himself thinks that he is. And so from my point of view, he may make suggestions that he might create a party, but only as a way to try and get the Conservative Party to essentially listen to him, try and bring him back into that Westminster bubble, essentially.
All right, it's not over. Alexander, thank you so much indeed. Political analyst and founder of Global Political Insight think tank. Thank you for your time from London today.